I can't actually see. Just make sure once again. This stop share. Share one more time. Excuse me. Okay, go to 11. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that over there. And today is, again, both classes are actually intertwined, right one after the other. We're going to talk about this life cycle that we go through as presenters, as creatives, when we're on air. And again, the first lesson will cover the first half, and I've got my textbook next to me, so we also want to be able to look at the textbook because there's a lot of writing that wasn't really worth the kind of point of actually copying and pasting to slides, but rather just open a book up onto um, those certain pages you want to get to them, and then you will go through these particular life cycles. So, what's the introduction of all of this, and why is that we actually need to go through, this particular learning, within obviously radio and broadcasting is to get where, and you see it every day, and I see it every day, and we see it every year, whatever it is, we're seeing it right now as well, especially with all the station changes and lineup changes that are massive. It just like I always say this every year. I say it every year when it happens. Like I can't believe that so many stations are changing their lineups. And so drastically, like there's massive lineup changes, and there's large amount of commercial stations and PBS stations that have made these changes, and it's again, it kind of always makes me a little bit sad, in the sense that I don't weep a tear or whatever. But the thing is that I know what that is, and that's a lot of jocks that are losing their momentum and their kind of their, I mean, their dreams. If I got to go a bit soft and fuzzy on that, just because of the way that the volatile nature of this industry is, they haven't even been given time to actually go through these cycles that we'll go through today, about maturity and growth, and and where you start out and stuff, and that goes alongside with your show as well, the way that you obviously present a certain show, and you bring that show to people's everyday lives, and the way that also grows, it has to have a life cycle of its own as well, that once again does come to an end. But when it comes to an end, doesn't mean that you actually have to get kicked out of the industry or actually lose a show or whatever. It means that you got to actually rejuvenate that particular moment in your career, that moment in your, I say, your on-air career, so the product itself. And um and so so this is what we're seeing right now. I'm just saying that it becomes, it's super difficult to kind of mentally control that, and then apply ourselves creatively when we see so many things. You're looking over your shoulder basically as you move through what is supposed to be your like, you've reached a paying job, so we're talking commercial radio. Like, you don't want to be looking over your shoulder every 24 seconds, or every whatever 24 seconds of 24 hours, and then the rest of those seconds are for your breathing and eating and sleeping or whatever it may be, just to know that, listen, am I safe or am I not? Am I doing enough? Am I not? Do I play it safe? Do I play it, kind of like very risky, to kind of make a mark or whatever it may be? And what is actually the definition of a mark? Like, how do I make an impact and a bit of a change? Because there are so many people that have made so many marks and changes and influences within people's lives. I'm saying to you, as broadcasters, that you can't really go according to some kind of calculation and say, okay, cool, this is a formula that works, and I'm going to kind of emulate that and move on, right? So I want to just start this. I want you to leave it in the back of your head. I want to go. I feel like it's going to be a little bit more constructive. I just go through the theory first. We can cycle back to some of the practical stuff, towards the end, and then that'll be a little bit more beneficial and also a little bit more structured as well, as I say. But as we're going to look at through these pages as well, what is the benefit of role playing at this point of your own learning? And for you, it's a lot easier. Again, the assumption and presumption of you being part-time is that you do work as it is. So there's a lot of stuff that you don't have to imagine about the workplace and its constructive politics, where I'm saying politics are just the way that things work. And then there's obviously the toxicity of that, which is just a human element, as well as the like I say, the just a normal, again, like I say, structural balance of what happens within a work environment, to have a career, to be working with different people, to understand different systems within a obviously a big system, a much larger system, what role you play, like obviously your responsibilities, that type of stuff, right? um but the bigger benefit, and the biggest benefit of role playing is so that you can measure out certain circumstances and the way that you might react, and things that you don't understand, that you do understand, or the way that you tackle certain things, and having obviously it being observed, you understand, so that your analysis of the whole point of role playing, in general, whatever it may be, within role playing for a work environment, or role playing for, maybe you want to approach your boss on, or you're going for an interview with someone as a potential boss, or you're doing it in whatever sense, right? Role playing is really good because it allows us to cognitively produce outputs that we would race quite fast across through our thought process, and not really word as well. Do you understand? If we just had the slower time of constructing it into thoughts, processes, actions, and obviously sentences that come out of our mouths, right? I'm just going to quickly just minimize that little tabby there. Okay. All right, so let's look at information and entertainment content to understand what makes content and entertainment entertainment. We've got to understand that entertainment is actually just defined as something that's anything that is entertaining, quote unquote, but it is informative, or it's educational, or it's interactive, right? So any one of those elements there will quantify how good that, or the quality of that entertainment actually is. So for example, if you learn something from something that you hear, or you see, or you read, or whatever it is, and you found it useful, that is a form of entertainment. Entertainment is defined as distraction, the key of distraction, like the action, or the action of distraction, right? The more distracted you are, the better the entertainment of whatever it is that you are doing is, the higher quality of that is. So for example, if you went on I don't know, like a boat ride, and you were supposed to go see sharks, or you're supposed to see dolphins, or you're supposed to see sea life, or whatever it is, and there wasn't really anything, they took you to places and part of the ocean that there wasn't much happening. There were just some generic fish kind of like flying on by, whatever it may be, a couple of seagulls here and there, and then you paid money for it, but you expected something that was not captivating at all. It didn't promise you it didn't deliver what you promised, or what you were promised, like, and all in all, it was just a crappy experience, you understand? So there was nothing really that heightened that need for distraction, right? So when we think of the better the distraction, the better the entertainment. And the way that you can really quantify that is the way that we binge any series, you understand? So when we can see we have, let's say, a day or two or three or four that are coming up now for Easter, like we have them off, and we have some time to ourselves, like amongst obviously the religious, celebration, right? Like we want to watch some TV, or want to watch some series. And the more and more you binge, and the longer you binge for, means the better the series actually is in your own opinion and your own evaluation of it, because it's been controlling your attention for hours and hours and hours on end. We look at it in terms of movies. Movies on average, like now, are around about 140, well, 1 hour 48 minutes to about, let's say, just over 2 hours, about 2 hours and 2 hours and 20, 2 hours and 10 minutes or so. That's a really long time. Most movies actually averaged nothing more than 1.5 hours, so 90 minutes, for the longest time ever. But because movies started becoming a lot more captivating with, for example, the longest movies that we could remember, like way back when, that started really making a bigger thing, was like Titanic was a long movie, and Lord of the Rings were long movies, extremely long movies. But the thing is that people would not be at all not entertained. You understand? They would watch it, and if you went to go watch, let's say, Titanic at the cinema, which was, I think it might have been when you were born, or I don't know, it's been that long, right? Like they would actually have breaks, you understand? So they would actually pause the movie, you'd go out for a break, you'd actually come back, because the movie was considered too long, do you understand? And it wasn't that Hollywood never produced great movies that were long before that. We had Gone with the Wind and stuff like that, but that was very few and very far between, because the kind of the quality cap stopped at 90 minutes, and most movies were averaged at there, and the rest was up to them, you understand? um but I'm saying to you, like, that is a key kind of distinction between good and bad quality. Like, the moment that you switch off a bad song is the moment that you know that you didn't like it, because it was bad. You listened to like 30 seconds of it, you got to maybe the chorus or whatever it may be. After a minute, you didn't like it, you switched it off. You kind of also made a mental mark of it in your mind, and if you heard it again, you'd switch the radio off, or you'd like, whatever, turn the streaming service off, or whatever it may have been, you understand? Like, we make these mental triggers, or we mark these mental triggers within our own capacity, saying this is good and this is not. Now, obviously, what is considered good is, obviously, it's very opinionated, it's biased as well, because there's a lot of people that like really bad movies, and some people that consider those bad movies. Bad movies are not exactly the best critics in the world, and vice versa. But we do have quality control in any product, and we know when something is really crap. And like I say, just there's no other word for it. Bad is one thing, but crap is another. And we watch, and Netflix, for example. Let me just accept who's coming in here. Netflix is a good example of when Netflix began, there were a handful of series that actually came out, right? And everyone loved it. Netflix was great quality, like, it was great storytelling, it was very original, it was kind of racy at the same time. When I say racy, like, it pushed a little bit of boundaries and stuff like that within this new kind of consumer market. But the thing is that the larger Netflix became, the more productions that they were obviously billing out to have made, and etc. etc. We started seeing, I mean, all of us who went through that Netflix phase in the beginning would give anything a try that Netflix would said, this was a Netflix original, you understand, because of the quality of the first initial products. But the thing is that, like anything else in life, like, there's a whole lot of rubbish on Netflix, that like, because I was seeing some, I don't know where it was, but it was on the net somewhere today, where there are thousands and thousands and thousands of series that you can access, obviously, through Netflix, obviously within different genres or whatever it may be. But the thing is that, within thousands and thousands and thousands, like, there are a lot of rubbish series and movies and whatever it is, and productions that are there. Anyway, so I go back to the whole thing of understanding like why I'm carrying on about this whole concept of great entertainment, and why the quality is about the longer you can distract someone, is the more captivating it is. And this captivating is it's captivating for a reason. Now you got to know what the reason is. Otherwise, what's the point of being a creator, right? You can't be getting people's attention but not knowing why. So anyway, so this is what I want you to think about when you are looking and listening and watching and reading, whatever content it is out there, and considering it, because now you have to be like you have to be quantifying it as a professional now, no longer just a consumer, but as a professional. So what goes into a radio show or podcast? In business, every product goes through a life cycle or life stages, and these phases are commonly grouped into four categories, right? So there's the intro phase, the growth phase, the maturity, and then the decline phase. This is nothing new. This is like anything else in life. You understand? Like it's not this groundbreaking methodology. There's nothing new about the construct of it, and you can probably just assume, from the very little that we've gone through, I'm just saying the past month or so of radio, what part of those phases are made up of, right? Let's start looking at some of them. Okay, so in the textbook, okay, I'm just gonna get to this page. So I'm gonna go through a little bit of it. I'm not gonna go through all of it now, and I told you I'm gonna go through it towards the end there. But if you do go to, let's say, page 90, let's go to 96 here. Okay, you see that life cycle, the life cycle page on in 95. The life cycle is also going to be shown in the next presentation, right? But we want to kind of start at the introduction phase, and you'll see there's a little graphic about like the percentages of what we include in terms of like promotions and features and lifestyles and relationships and personal observations and so on and so forth, right? And then within each one of these phases, as you move along through to page 105, right, there'll be a breakdown of, like, what happens in introduction, what happens in growth, what happens in maturity, what happens in decline, right? So let's follow the slides for the moment, right? And then like I say, go together back to the book, and then have a look at some of those details. Okay, so the product life cycle. Okay, it has a life cycle, and it's the success of the product goes through the four stages that we just mentioned there. So as it moves through these stages, it becomes a little bit, obviously, it matures, as it says in one of the phases there as well, but it also finds its space, its footing, its purpose, like where it's hitting all the good spots in terms of like what the listener wants, and what the business itself, the radio station, needs from it, where its role is, you understand, in terms of like as a lifestyle product. In every phase, the business has to work on different strategies to ensure the success of the product. So the thing is that as we move through these different phases, like we've got to be very careful at is how we, one, first of all, classify a presenter to be adequate enough to be dealing with each phase, one, two, and two, if they are classified correctly. So maybe they are more, let's say, experienced, and they should actually know more about each phase. It doesn't mean that they have to go and skip phase. That's not it at all. Every time we start a new show, you should be reanalyzing and reintroducing and basically starting from quote unquote scratch, because it's a new listener at a different time of day, like on a different day, maybe on a different station, at a different time of the year. I don't know, whatever it may be, right? Okay, but let's look at the introduction phase. Okay, and again, this is taken straight from the textbook. So I do have some, like I say, some cutouts, some a copy and paste that I have put in there. Okay, so the intro phase, so is basically like meeting someone, at a bar. for the first time. That sounds kind of seedy, like whenever you go somewhere and you meet someone just off the cuff, you understand? So you might have a little bit of an introduction to them from a friend. You still don't know much about them except maybe what a friend has told you. Ideally, this situation is like when you don't know the person at all. Very few people actually do this still. I mean, you've got to either have a little bit of liquor in you to kind of have that kind of like Dutch courage to just randomly go up to people and start speaking to them. But the thing is that people also don't receive you very well either. Like we're in a era of life right now where we are very cynical. People don't really like people in general. People are really not nice people in general. It's danger. There's a lot of risk, and it's just sometimes like more often than not worth meeting someone just out of the blue. Do you understand? And speaking to you ever, kind of we see it as a waste of time. And now I go a little bit more into that example because the thing is that like we got to understand that also trying to get to know somebody that is a total stranger on air, sure, they don't mean you any harm. I'm saying to you physically or whatever it is, like you would in a bar, at a party, whatever it may be. But they do also they invade your space, which we have a different type of reaction to. I'm saying to you in terms of the way that we protect it and the way that we want to actually like kind of like gravitate through that. Right. There's a couple of things that you just don't speak about. Like in the beginning, we don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about sex, right? And we don't talk about controversial worldviews, embarrassing topics like stuff that would embarrass the other person or make them feel uncomfortable, maybe due to you or like saying something that's kind of like iffy and a bit like off random, whatever it is. And persona details that may push the new person away, right? Going on a blind date, whatever it is, quote unquote, is basically going on a first date, right? So everyone always puts their best foot forward. You want to kind of impress the other person. You want to also be impressed yourself because you want to see whether or not you want to see these people again in whatever capacity that this quote unquote date happens. Doesn't have to be like in a traditional sense when you go to a restaurant or whatever it is. Like I'm saying, like you meet the person and you have some kind of like attraction to them, whatever it is, so some kind of investment. The thing is, at the end of the day, you're going to be um watching what you say in a whole lot of ways. Only a very small amount of you will actually be exposed to this person that you are speaking to across from you. Things that you might actually talk about is you'd find out things that you have in common, so that you can start having some kind of common ground and some conversation that both of you are invested in. The favorite types that lie in your entertainment tastes, like your music and again movies and different types of like hobbies or whatever it may be. You understand, right? General relationship topics, general lifestyle topics, and personal observations about the shared space that both of you inhabit at that particular moment. So for example, like for example, we'll bring up how the EFF had any to some effect last week within, let's say, us getting to work, or whether we stayed at home, or like what did we think about what obviously Julius had said, or what what kind of ripple effect that has had on our political agenda without getting into politics. So it's a safe space to say like, okay, cool, this is the beginning of what we're seeing as the run or rush to the elections 2024. Do you understand? And that's something that we can talk about. That's quite easy enough and quite safe enough. Lifestyle topics, like so, for example, like the Easter holidays are coming up. There's a lot of people that don't celebrate Easter. There's a lot of people that do celebrate Easter. So maybe we want to talk about something that's not religiously specific just yet, because we don't know where the people's standing is, just like a listener would. We don't know exactly what the listener profile is all about, whether they are religious, in what way are they spiritual, like so do we bring up like that, or do we bring up the break? Do you understand about like it's a good time to take stock, it's already April, like we talk about things like that, how disappointing has 2023 been, or how great has it been, or what obstacles are we seeing every day, what things like that, right? And we can talk about relationship topics as well. So relationship topics, about for like friends and support and family, and obviously love relationships or romantic relationships, whatever it may be, right? And talk about the kind of the lighter stuff, or the fact that we can have a political opinion, a socio-economic political opinion about any one of these topics that are, or points that are listed below. Okay, so if you look at the ones that are above that we have to stay away from, it's anything that, all these things are spoken about on radio, all of them, everything about, like, obviously not our sexual history. That's one specifically that just do not, as a presenter, share, because like we don't want to know, people don't want to know about like certain things about you, not because they don't think that you don't have, let's say, some kind of sexual history, but because it's an overshare that people don't want to cross that line with you. Do you understand? If you're going to talk, let's say, about sex, you'd have a sex show, you would have sex features, you'd have a sexologist on there. Like you would allow the stories or the information or the education or entertainment being told by another tool, or through using another tool. Anyway, embarrassing moments, obviously it's something a little bit closer, that when the listener is a bit more of a friend persona, they've learned the way that you have little picks, or whatever it is, like certain personality.
Sorry, Chris.
Yes,
I just want to comment on something.
yes, go ahead.
One day, I was listening to Gagazi FM, of which I noticed that hey, they've been talking about a lot of sex over the radio. I think it's the app program. And then
Okay.
I was just thinking, over the radio. I know some of the radio they don't talk publicly or about sexual stuff. So I
Right.
don't know whether it's according to their program.
Yeah, so the thing is that, as again, like, the thing is, because sex is part of health, do you understand? Like, the thing is that, if you have a talk station, you will somewhere have a sex show, like, you understand, like something that's got sexual health, or sexual well-being, or whatever it is, because it goes under health, right? But the thing is that, and obviously, again, and there's nothing wrong. You see, there's obviously, you understand when something it becomes dirty. You understand what I'm saying to you. So when you want to talk gross stuff, like, it's even just in wording. Do you understand? So it's one. There's so much that has been taught to us about, for example, what is considered taboo, but it isn't. Like, for example, I think most of us growing up wouldn't have known really which where we would stop before it became a swear word. You understand, quote unquote, right? And then obviously, as grown-ups, we all know the differences between, like, for example, saying penis or vagina, whatever it is. These are names of things, and the way that you use it, you understand, that makes it offensive. Do you understand? It makes it inappropriate. So the thing is that you see, there was, what's her name, man? Uh she was there is Master Chaba, right? I don't know if you ever listened to Master Chaba while she was a long time ago on Kai FM, right?
Yes.
And it was, the thing is that she would do a good show. It wasn't bad, she would do the talk show, she would do the evening show. The things with the sex, and like Thursdays or something with, like, sex, and obviously about, like, sex or whatever. And things that she would share her sexual history with us. And it was very inappropriate. Like, we didn't want to know about how, when she was naked for the first time with her first lover, and how, like she was embarrassed of her breasts and stuff like that, or she was very proud about, like, sitting there. We don't want to know that about you, because the thing is that, like, it paints a certain image in our head, not that you are a gross human being and that having sex is something wrong with it, but the thing is that, like, I don't want to talk to you about my kids right after that. I'm just saying, let's say we're on Friday, like, let's say the Friday show is about, let's say, like, raising kids or about cars. But I can picture you, Nana, in this racy story that you gave me just some yesterday about all the nooks and crannies that this man now was touched and whatever it is. So the thing is that that stood out for me so much because I was grossed out for her. Do you understand? I don't want to know that type of stuff. Like the people that want to know more intricate details, they go and they view porn. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or they are racy, erotic, like there's erotic novels and fiction or whatever it is. Like we don't need to hear that on radio. Do you understand? And it was very embarrassing to hear just in terms of like her understanding of where to limit the mark. Do you understand? So for example, let's say she had interviewed, let's say she was speaking about how, let's say, women have different obviously let's say the way that breasts are, for example, valued or interpreted or whatever it is, or the plight of the big breast. Do you understand? Right. That is a conversational topic that a lot of women and men can take part in. Do you understand? But it doesn't filth up the content at all. Does that make sense? Does that am I making sense?
Yes, 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 Chris.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you understand? So the thing is that so what were they saying? What were they saying on Kasi FM? That felt maybe, you see, if it makes you feel uncomfortable in general, it should be said differently or it shouldn't be said at all. In general, eh? So not just about sex. It should
No,
be
it was
like, yeah,
yes, it was those vulgar language, strong language that we're using, and like I was just feeling is okay. Anyway,
yeah.
it was an educational lesson with a doctor or someone who's well educated,
Mm.
giving it advice as we are growing.
Yeah.
So
So the thing
yeah,
is also, I mean, you can also tell. I mean, you're not. The thing is that the thing is when we listen to it's not. Because we can tell the intention of the presenter as well. If they feel also that their alternative motive is also just to like I say, to ramp things up. Do you understand? You can hear it in the tone of their voice, the way that they structure their sentences and stuff, just to get a rise out of somebody. Do you understand? Which then again also will make one feel uncomfortable for. It's about the way that we force, obviously, certain inflection, certain whatever it is, you understand? So that the delivery actually lands in a certain way that we want it to, which makes it either appropriate or inappropriate, if that makes, yeah, makes sense. So, okay, good. Okay, so that I'm glad then kind of sits in. I want you to go to start thinking about like what it is that you're limited at this moment. Let's say, because I want to obviously start with you in the introduction phase. You understand, and what is that you could, let's say, maybe speak about. Let's compare the analogy of the list of things that you might talk about when first meeting someone to Johnson's percentage of content categories, which is exactly what we're doing with the 35% and everything that you'll see in your textbook, right? So let's say the content is something that you might have in common. A radio content could be a station or a station and a promotion, right? That you have in common, right? The station that you listen to and a promotion that obviously like you have to. Well, you have to either have to execute or promote itself, and then they obviously win from it. So it's two things that it's the two things that you both have in common, right? Okay, your favorite types of entertainment. So features and benchmarks. What is a feature? A feature is something that you do on a specific day or every day at a certain time, right? It's got a name, it's got a structure, and it allows for dynamic content. And a benchmark is something like the news, right? So the news is at the top of the hour, or the sports at the bottom of the hour, or you have traffic, or you have, those type of things, right? Those are benchmarks. So then we have general relationship topics, right? So relationship content, general lifestyle topics, lifestyle content, personal, not private. So that's the biggest thing, is the personal, not private thing, is that we teach that through all the way to third year, is to say that have you managed to actually be very personal be the utmost reach of personal and continue going in that direction, but never cross that private line, right? So personal observations, depending on how you construct them and how you deliver them, are always respected by a listener with common sense. Do you understand? So the thing is that when you sound very forceful or irritated or offended, or you have again motive, or you understand, like someone else is just going to say like you're full of now you're full of it. You understand? And you're self-serving or whatever it may be. Just remember, try and see how much and for how long you can keep a conversation going with someone that you do not know from a bar of soap next time you go to a social gathering. Or I wouldn't, people always say, start something while you're like taking public transport or whatever it may be. Let me just let this person in. Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. I wouldn't do something like that. I'm not implying that. I'm talking about like, let's say a social setting. Perhaps maybe one day you're on campus, you see a couple people that you don't know. Just try and see how long you last. You don't have to last for hours. You have to last for at least 5 minutes. You understand? Having a conversation that isn't uncomfortable for you. You understand? Excuse me, with someone that you do not know. And the best way to always get to know someone that you do not know is always ask a question, right? So, where are you from? Like I love what you're wearing. Like where, well, like I think I've seen that somewhere else, or that reminds me of something that this star was wearing, etc., etc., etc. You understand, right? Like you want to be able to start conversation quite naturally, and not be afraid. Always listen to what a person says, because that is where you're going to get the most amount of whatever it is that you want to react and have content in saying. I'm saying when you're holding a conversation. So there is just the percentages, just in terms of this introductory phase. Like 35% of the time will be stations and promos, 30 about the station and promos, 35% features benchmarks, 20% will be relationship, nothing really for lifestyle at this moment, 10% personal observations, right? Okay. Right. So then we look at the links across maybe a 3 hour show, let's say with 15 links. Okay. So 5 links an hour. We would like to obviously spread that out and balance across the 3 hours. So for example, let's say you come in, your first link is at maybe 12 past, like let's say you start the show at 6 in the morning, 12 past 6, you come in, you want to start immediately maybe with content. Let's say you do want to talk about something that like that is a talker, like, so you're going to get some people conversating, or maybe you just want to do a general introduction, like most breakfast shows do at that time. They get a bit of a feel of a, like, kind of like everyone's kind of like settling in. There is some kind of anecdote that carries on either that, and it will be topical based on something or something, with a bit of a throw forward. So they're teasing towards something that's coming. Like you would balance this without around your clocks, right? And you're saying to me, what is a clock yet? We haven't done one yet. Don't worry about it. Like the clock is obviously just the way that we will now go, and then it looks like a literal, it's a literal clock, but we put what all our content and all the everything that happens within that hour in that clock. Don't worry about it. It's part of a much later lesson. Okay. All right. So without again just kind of like completely repeating this stuff, you'll see that it'll change now as it moves to the second phase, and then we'll go into the third phase, right? We'll go into the third phase in the next lesson, right? So just for the moment, okay. So in the introduction phase, I want to just kind of I want you to go back. I want you to take a textbook if you got one. Um, I just want to see which parts I want you to let's have a look at. So on page 99, you'll see the visual of this over here. You understand, with the growth, okay? So there's a visual, there's a little pie chart there where it tells you now you're going to bring in some heart, which means like we're going to start obviously including a little bit more of how we're going to get in touch with parts of us that they don't know yet. Like again, it's like kind of like being again in a relationship. You want to open up a little bit more. People start to like you for your flaws that you actually use as strengths, right? Because it adds to your character, things like that. Like we'll include emotional, personality driven content, as part of our growth phase. And then, like I say, what you'll see in maturity and what follows in the last one, which I think is the decline one, right, will be in the next lesson, right? Okay. So yeah. So with this, let's do I'm gonna give you some minutes, okay? Look at the introduction phase. The introduction phase is again it's on page, just to give you that starts introduction phase on page 97, just so you can see the breakdown of it again. Okay. And I want you to list content ideas for what you should talk about on air. So I've given you plenty. Now you must give me some of your own and what you should not talk about on air. Now I've given you like the breakdown. Do you understand? Right. But I want you to actually talk about like the way that I've spoken about certain things. I want you to think of different things. Like I'm saying to you, in relation to stuff, give me some actual examples, okay, of for example, of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got six here in the first part of what you should not, and we got five. Sorry, that's just not PC doing some stuff, and then we got five here, something that you have in common, down to there. Okay, so I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. I think that's enough. I'm just gonna stop the recording. Just give me a second, yeah. Um, okay, can everyone see? Let's stop that recording.